There's a slippery slope mindset where the idea is that, gosh, if I say Genesis 1 isn't literal, well then, that's sort of figurative. Well then, maybe Jesus rising from the dead wasn't literal either. And so there's this kind of all or nothing sort of mindset that characterizes a kind of a fundamentalist worldview. Now the true reality is that nobody takes all the Bible literally. They may say they do, but they don't. They don't believe that the earth is held up by pillars. The Bible says that, or that it's surrounded by a bunch of water. I think the best thing is, I speak as a theologian and as a pastor, and by just modeling responsible exegesis and modeling how your faith doesn't hang upon the interpretation of every particular verse. Having a sense of proportion in faith. I mean, a lot of people have, especially if they come out of a fundamentalist mindset, they have a sort of house of cards theology, where it's like a house that's just built of these cards stacked together, and if you knock out any one of them, the whole thing comes tumbling down. See, that actually was the kind of faith I initially inherited when I became a Christian when I was 17. Everything had to be, it was like everything was equally important. And so I was taught that if Adam and Eve weren't literal, and if Genesis 1 wasn't literal, then the whole Bible's a book of lies. It took one semester of college for my faith to be destroyed, going into it with that kind of mindset, which is why and it took me 3 years to gradually come back to my faith, kind of putting the pieces back together again, but it was miserable. It was just miserable and so unnecessary. And that's when I decided that whatever else I do with my life, I want to use whatever influence I have to keep that from happening to other people. Putting unnecessary obstacles to people coming to faith, or unnecessary things to get people out of the faith. And so just modeling a kind of freedom about that. Like, not everything is equally important. We can disagree on Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 and on this interpretation or whatever. But holding up Christ as the center, and if we've got Christ in common, then all of our disagreements are going to be relatively minor. And we can grow together and help one another by talking about this and debating these sorts of things, but we don't have to bet the house on it,